In linguistics, syntax is the study of the principles and processes by which sentences are constructed in particular languages. In addition to referring to the discipline, the term syntax is also used to refer directly to the rules and principles that govern the sentence structure of any individual language. Modern research in syntax attempts to describe languages in terms of such rules. Many professionals in this discipline attempt to find general rules that apply to all natural languages. The term syntax is also used to refer to the rules governing the behavior of mathematical systems, such as formal languages used in logic. Early history, works on grammar were written long before modern syntax came about. The or to the first, to the first I or ya of pa to the first ni is often cited as an example of a pre-modern work that approaches the sophistication of a modern syntactic theory. In the West, the school of thought that came to be known as traditional grammar began with the work of Dionysius Thrax. For centuries, work in syntax was dominated by a framework known as Grammar copyright rail, first expanded in 1660 by Antoine Arnauld in a book of the same title. This system took as its basic premise the assumption that language is a direct reflection of thought processes and therefore there is a single, most natural way to express a thought. However, in the 19th century, with the development of historical comparative linguistics, linguists began to realize the sheer diversity of human language and to question fundamental assumptions about the relationship between language and logic. It became apparent that there was no such thing as the most natural way to express a thought, and therefore logic could no longer be relied upon as a basis for studying the structure of language. The Port Royal Grammar modeled the study of syntax upon that of logic. Syntactic categories were identified with logical ones, and all sentences were analyzed in terms of subject to copula predicate. Initially, this view was adopted even by the early comparative linguists such as Franz Bopp. The central role of syntax within theoretical linguistics became clear only in the 20th century, which could reasonably be called the century of syntactic theory as far as linguistics is concerned. Modern theories, there are a number of theoretical approaches to the discipline of syntax. One school of thought, founded in the works of Derek Bickerton, sees syntax as a branch of biology, since it conceives of syntax as the study of linguistic knowledge as embodied in the human mind. Other linguists take a more Platonistic view, since they regard syntax to be the study of an abstract formal system. Yet others consider syntax a taxonomical device to reach broad generalizations across languages. Generative grammar. The hypothesis of generative grammar is that language is a structure of the human mind. The goal of generative grammar is to make a complete model of this inner language. This model could be used to describe all human language and to predict the grammaticality of any given utterance. This approach to language was pioneered by Noam Chomsky. Most generative theories assume that syntax is based upon the constituent structure of sentences. Generative grammars are among the theories that focus primarily on the form of a sentence, rather than its communicative function. Among the many generative theories of linguistics, the Chomskyan theories are government and binding theory, minimalist program, transformational grammar. Other theories that find their origin in the generative paradigm are arc-pair grammar, generalized phrase structure grammar, generative semantics, head-driven phrase structure grammar, lexical functional grammar, nanosyntax, relational grammar, categorial grammar. Categorial grammar is an approach that attributes the syntactic structure not to rules of grammar, but to the properties of the syntactic categories themselves. For example, rather than asserting that sentences are constructed by a rule that combines a noun phrase and a verb phrase, in categorial grammar, such principles are embedded in the category of the head word itself. So the syntactic category for an intransitive verb is a complex formula representing the fact that the verb acts as a function word requiring an NP as an input and produces a sentence-level structure as an output. This complex category is notated as instead of VNP_S is read as a category that searches to the left for an NP and outputs a sentence. The category of transitive verb is defined as an element that requires two NPs to form a sentence. This is notated as, which means a category that searches to the right for an NP, and generates a function which is, which in turn represents a function that searches to the left for an NP and produces a sentence. Tree-adjoining grammar is a categorical grammar that adds impartial tree structures to the categories. Dependency grammar. Dependency grammar is an approach to sentence structure where syntactic units are arranged according to the dependency relation, as opposed to the constituency relation of phrase structure grammars. Dependencies are directed links between words. The verb is seen as the root of all clause structure, and all the other words in the clause are either directly or indirectly dependent on this root. Some prominent dependency-based theories of syntax are algebraic syntax, functional generative description, meaning Eurotext theory, operator grammar, word grammar. Lucien Tesnier is widely seen as the father of modern dependency-based theories of syntax and grammar. He argued vehemently against the binary division of the clause into subject and predicate that is associated with the grammars of his day and which remains at the core of all phrase structure grammars. In the place of this division, he positioned the verb as the root of all clause structure. Stochastic probabilistic grammars. Network theories, theoretical approaches to syntax that are based upon probability theory are known as stochastic grammars. One common implementation of such an approach makes use of a neural network or connectionism. Some theories based within this approach are optimality theory, stochastic context-free grammar, functionalist grammars. Functionalist theories, although focused upon form, are driven by explanation based upon the function of a sentence. Some typical functionalist theories include cognitive grammar, construction grammar, emergent grammar, functional discourse grammar, Prague linguistic circle, role and reference grammar, systemic functional grammar. See also, syntactic terms. Notes. References: Brown, Keith. Jim Miller. Concise Encyclopedia of Syntactic Theories. New York, Elsevier Science. ISBN A0-08-042711-1. Carney, Andrew. Syntax, A Generative Introduction. Oxford, Wiley Blackwell. ISBN A1-4051-3384-8. Friedin, Robert. Howard Lusnick. Syntax. Critical Concepts in Linguistics. New York, Routledge. ISBN A0-415-24672-5. Graffi, Giorgio. 200 Years of Syntax. A Critical Survey. Studies in the History of the Language Sciences 98. Amsterdam, Benjamins. ISBN A90-272-4587-8. Mieszko Telesiewicz. Philosophy of Syntax. Euro Foundational Topics. Springer. ISBN A978-90-481-3287-4. An interdisciplinary essay on the interplay between logic and linguistics on syntactic theories. Tesnier, Lucien. 1969. A Permil lemma. Copyright NTS de Syntaxe Structurale. 2nd edition. Paris, Klingsieck. Further reading: Martin Everett, Henk van Riemsdijk, Rob Giedemans and Bart Hollebrands, ed. The Blackwell Companion to Syntax. Blackwell. ISBN A978-1-4051-1485-1. 5 volumes. 77 Case Studies of Syntactic Phenomena. Brian Rourke. Richard William Sproat. Computational Approaches to Morphology and Syntax. Oxford University Press. ISBN A978-0-19-927477-2. Part 2, Computational Approaches to Syntax. Isaac, Daniela. Charles Race. iLanguage, An Introduction to Linguistics is Cognitive Science, 2nd edition. Oxford University Press. ISBN A978-0199660179. Edith A. Moravcsik. An Introduction to Syntax, Fundamentals of Syntactic Analysis. Continuum International Publishing Group. ISBN A978-0-8264-8945-6. Attempts to be a theory-neutral introduction. The Companion. Edith A. Moravcsik. An Introduction to Syntactic Theory. Continuum International Publishing Group. ISBN A978-0-8264-8943-2 surveys the major theories. Jointly reviewed in the Canadian Journal of Linguistics 54, 1, March 2009, pages 172-175. External links: The Syntax of Natural Language, an online introduction using the trees Programma Beatrice Santorini and Anthony Croak, University of Pennsylvania, 2007.